This is Haight Street Voice Radio. I'm Linda Kelly. I'm here with Big Steve Parish, who has been in the Dead family, Grateful Dead family for over 50 years now. Worked with Jerry. Jerry's Roadie for over 30 years. Jerry Garcia's Roadie. And I am so excited to have you here, man.
Good.
On with your butt in the corner of Haight-Ashbury, out that window. But I just want to tell the folks out there in whatever land they're in, you are from originally Flushing Meadows, Queens, New York. You
Born and bred.
Busted as a teenager for selling acid in the summer of 1968. And you were in Rikers Island.
Well, I was here first. I came here first. Okay. And, of course, the amazing thing that happened was
Thanks
I
for
had
being
a friend. I was trying to get away from some other problems I had because I was a juvenile delinquent. And so I came here really young. And had a friend that was staying on Brady Alley, 70 Brady, right down off of Market.
Okay.
And this is the destiny of our lives, exactly. I had no idea that right across from where I was living was PHR, Pacific High Recording. So one day I was standing out front and I saw a guy struggling with a bass cabinet. I didn't even know what a bass cabinet was at the time. But I walked over to help him. And that little act of kindness changed my whole life.
Wow.
Because that was Ramrod, and he needed help.
Shout out to Ramrod.
And I always tell people I got my job because of drugs. Because why? Owsley was experimenting on the crew guys all the time. Because that was Ramrod and Johnny Hagan would come down with the pranksters from Pendleton. Because Hagen's brother, Mike Hagan, was Kesey's roommate in college. Right?
Okay. Ken Kesey, just to clarify.
Right. Ken Kesey, One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, writer, and Sometimes a Great Notion, and millions of other great things.
Thank you for clarifying, because there's going to be a lot of young people that watch this that live in the neighborhood, and they want to know this history.
Well, Kesey started this thing called the Merry Pranksters. And these guys lived, Ramrod, his real name was Larry Shurtleff, he lived up in the most remote parts of Eastern Oregon, outside of Pendleton, right? And him and Johnny and Rex Jackson, what it was Ramrod, he got that name from Kesey.
I didn't know
because
that.
On a trip on the bus with Neil Cassidy driving,
if you could call it
they
driving.
went to Mexico and he got the name Ramon Rodriguez, right? So that's where Ramrod came from. But a ramrod is so fortuitous that a ramrod is also the head of a cattle drive. The boss of the cattle drive is the head cowboy. And that's how it was. And these guys were real cowboys. So it was an amazing combination.
Wild West all the way, right?
I was born in New York City, right in the heart of Manhattan. Yeah. And my father was a gangster, and he was a Teamster, and he went all the way up to the top of the Teamsters. I knew Jimmy Hoffa and all these other characters. And so my whole life was on the streets fighting and being in the 50s when I grew up, in the 60s, we were raised by very tough people. They'd been through World War II and they were all, keeping us in line. But we rebelled against all that. And where did you come to? You came to the Haight, And so I came here just when I was just able to, because I was in enough trouble. I had to escape. And I came to Brady Street, and there I meet that first day. Owsley had given Johnny Hagan this thing he was invented called STP. What STP was a 4-day LSD trip. It lasted for 4 fucking days. And we took it. And it was too much, man. And Johnny had taken it. And he was rolling on the floor. So I got to help. And from that moment on, I never left because Ramrod and I, we would go and move. Everybody was moving around the city from 710 and going to other houses and then coming back and rehearsal halls around the city. And so immediately he needed help, and Johnny was pretty high for 4 days. So I hung out with him. And then he took me that night. He was staying at Owsley's house, Ramrod was, over in Oakland Hills.
Oakland Hills, yeah.
And so then I had to pass Owsley's acid test the first day, and I'm only 18, but I'd taken lots of acid
Okay, that was my question. I was going to say, had you been, experienced before?
Because that's what we did.
From 0 to 4 days.
I started smoking pot in 1965, and that was when I was 15. And the whole thing opened up a world of drugs. That's all we cared about, So we did every day before we went to school. We raided our parents' medicine cabinets and took. In those days, everybody had really strong drugs.
Oh, yeah, mama's little
to go
helper.
to sleep, you were taking all the second off. So we knew everything about drugs because we were street kids too, and we were rascals. So we stole off of liquor trucks and everything.
Rascals.
And the thing was that Ramrod and Jackson, who were at the core of the Grateful Dead crew, I hadn't met Jackson yet, and he was like bigger than life and like a cowboy, Donald Rex Jackson. So this thing is forming, and I didn't even realize it. We started working at Judah and 9th Street at a place called Alembic, which was Owsley's studios and his laboratories. So every day, all the bands came there. And I was with Ramrod, so that opened up every door for me. Everybody loved him.
It was like,
And it was like
Grand Central to meet everybody.
So the first day we moved Jerry and Hunter from the city here. They were living in the city, and everybody was getting into problems with bad drugs were starting to move in the Haight, So people were moving out to Marin.
Yeah.
So Hunter and Jerry were living together, and their wives, Mountain Girl and Christy was Hunter's girl. And so we moved them this day and out to Larkspur. And Janice had just moved right on the same block as them. She knew all of us too, And so this is the community was like nomadic.
But did you know you were in the middle of this
You don't realize it because every second.
Had you seen the Grateful Dead a million times yet?
It's
or not?
even weirder than that. Yeah. It's so strange because it was like destiny. You see what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
See, there was me and there was Kid from Oakland and Alameda, where he grew up in the cities, and Sparky from Chicago. And so we had these 3 city guys with 3 of the most country guys you could ever fucking imagine. I mean, we would
welcome to California.
And so we realized, and then we hang out in Alembic, and Jerry was so smart. He saw that there was no way in those days, 1968, are you going to go out across America with some tough guys to do it for you? And I realized this years later, that he had the vision of us, and he hung out with us every day. And so everybody would come to Alembic, from all the bands.
Did you say 9th and Judah? Where it was?
Judah and 9th,
Judah and 9th,
right on the corner. A little bit in from the corner. There's a plaque on the wall there now, but not about what we did. It's about all this other stuff that happened there. But now I think they've added some.
I'm sorry. So go. I didn't mean to interrupt it, but I love the fact that it's right over there. It's like a stone's throw.
It's very close, and it was right up the hill, up Parnassus, up there.
Up and over,
up and over. And so our friend Ole, he had the first head shop in San Francisco. It was called Pleiades. And so the cops were after all of us. We were already in trouble because weed was so illegal. And there was a head narco in the city, was this guy, Jerry Van Ram was his name. And he was after us. And we hung out at the head shop, and we hung out at Alembic, which was really close. And it was like adventures of cops and robbers. So we knew from our whole lives. You see, each one of us, when I met Ramrod and Jackson, and I said, they had met in reform school in Eastern Oregon. And I said, what'd you guys do? They told me, well, we robbed a bottle of liquor from a ranch hand's truck. I said, and they gave you a year in the reform school? I said, we would boost cases of liquor in New York off of the trucks, and if the cops caught us, they smacked us around and they took the liquor. They never arrested us. I can't believe it. You guys had to go for that. You got to really kill somebody or almost kill somebody to go to jail when you were a kid in New York. We knew how to get around everything. And sure enough, my uncle was a doctor, and he had sent all these pills to my father for years and years, right? And so I was with my 2 buddies, Arthur and Mark, and I said, let's start trying these pills. Well, we didn't just take a couple, we were taking handfuls of them, right? Okay. And I'm stuffing them in my
kids,
pocket.
don't do what he does. Yeah.
Right, exactly. Don't do this ever. Because when I woke up, there was a cop with his knee on my chest.
Oh, no.
And his gun to my head.
Oh, geez.
And he said, you stupid fool. And there I was in the bedroom that I grew up in. They got me up there because it's a long story.
We don't
you read my book.
steer you.
Read my book.
I know. I was going to promote your book.
Now I'm going to get back to all
I'm
this
gonna
other
promote
stuff.
your book.
I'm just backgrounding this to tell you that
Okay.
we were rough and tumble, and Jerry saw the need, if we were going to go across America, to have guys that were tough enough to do it.
Yeah.
You had to fight the police. See, in those days, the police, there was no, there was a assault on an officer, but they didn't enforce it like they do. They liked to fight. They were these World War II vets, and they were just long hair, pissed them off, you know.
I think it's a good segue for where we are now, because the beauty and the
Yes.
love and the music and the connection and the
Was
synchronicity
still in our hearts.
Right, that's right.
Exactly.
But the
Good
whole
point.
scary, the contrast, not but that battle. I think
Yes.
this time around we have it more. People are more educated. People want to take care of their bodies more. There's more of an awareness now, don't you think? On this cycle, on this
Well,
go
we
round.
went through different things, yeah. Because
You know what I'm saying?
We had to stay in shape
Just
our
to bring
whole
it,
lives.
yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, we talked- yeah,
and
yeah,
the whole thing in San Francisco was love and flower children. And it was so beautiful. And you could grow your hair as long as you wanted. And everybody loved it.
Coming
and
from
free love
Goodfellas, yeah.
everywhere. Everybody was loving each
Yeah,
other.
yeah.
So it would take a hard-hearted guy and turn you right into a loving person.
Yeah, yeah,
and you
yeah.
began to learn.
Yeah.
Ram Dass and Ginsberg would be here with us. And once you got into the Grateful Dead world, you were in the center of a vortex of the highest level of society, and the Hells Angels too,
Oh, yeah.
and them taking
Oh,
us over all the time.
Yeah.
And they would, right here on these streets, we rode with them because they would give us motorcycles, and then when our bikes were stolen, we'd go to them. They would get them back because they usually were the ones that took them. But we had that going on, so we had to learn how to deal with all that.
Yeah.
See,
Yeah.
and in the same time, we had like Bill Graham, and he was and
Love you, Bill.
Chad Helms. They were fighting
Chet.
over who was going to start
Right.
being the promoter of the
Right,
city,
right.
and Bill.
Bill had the East Coast
Bill won
mentality.
out.
East Coast mentality. Right?
Well, he had a long story of a history.
Yeah, we know, yeah.
Of being a rough childhood as
Yeah.
he came out of Germany.
Yeah.
and-
Escaped Germany, Nazi Germany.
Yes, exactly.
Yes.
And he made it to New York by himself,
Yeah.
10 years old.
Yeah.
He didn't know where his family was.
Lost his sis.
So I knew him so well, and he was so close with us that he was hard for the scene, you know.
But
and he
it
wouldn't
needed that, didn't it?
He
The
would stand up to the
clipboard and
police, exactly.
Yeah.
And the police never came in the Fillmore, and they never came in Winterland. And those two places were like, wow, we can do what we want in these places. So the music scene was incredible.
So there was a trust there.
Now, what was going on in that thing was all the bands came and hung out at Alembic because we were building the studio,
Right.
and we were building speaker cabinets, and Alembic had happened. Altamont had happened.
Oh, yeah.
And after Altamont, everything really got serious. Yeah. That was a year before that, I ran out of money, and that's when I took some LSD back east in those days, and that's when I got busted.
Oh, okay.
And then, so all that time, and thank God my dad was so smart. He gave a judge $5,000 to keep me from doing 20 years in the penitentiary. And when we walked out of that courthouse,
Thank you, Dad. We wouldn't have this guy sitting here right
that's
now.
right. And we walked out of that courthouse. He kicked me so hard in the ass, I rolled down the steps. He said, "What are you going to do now?" I said, "I'm going back to the Grateful Dead." And he said, "No, you'll come rolling back." I never did, you know. But he helped us so many times over the years.
Oh, God bless your dad.
Because when we were on the road, they didn't like us, man. The unions were, whoa, who are these guys smoking pot everywhere we went? And grow hair long and tie-dye shirts and colorful.
Gorgeous girls everywhere. And all that.
That also, because we were young.
Yeah.
And our thing every night was, wow, come on, girls, here we are.
Of course.
I always told guys, I said, girls have
Everybody.
something that we want. They carry it with them. You got to bring us drugs. And so that was what it
Oh,
was
jeez.
like.
Again, don't do this. Don't try this at home, kids.
Exactly. And so everything here in the city, this is another element was the dope dealers.
Yeah.
They all came here. And they all wanted to sell drugs to the Grateful Dead or give us drugs. Because what a great thing. Well, the Grateful Dead are smoking my weed. And there was Goldfinger.
Kesey and all.
There was Goldfinger and Ole and Trader Bob and, Tim. And Rock Scully sort of went between both worlds with us, you know. And Rock and Danny had been in San
Rifkin.
Francisco
Rifkin,
State.
right?
Danny Rifkin. And Danny's the one who found 710 around the corner here on Ashbury, right up here.
Yeah. Literally.
And right up the street here. And so that was another thing that we had that everybody associated with the band, you know. So it was like, you know, the tour buses were going around and the people would clutch themselves and look at the hippies everywhere. So you felt, here I am. And I said, and Jerry said to me one day when I was first new, I said, somebody asked him, I think it was Phil, said, is he a freak? And Jerry said, he's a freak, totally. And when Jerry called you a freak,
resume,
that was the highest compliment. Because you see, in those days, it was still freak shows around the country, you know. I worked for Quicksilver for a while, and Dino Valenti was a real character. But he had come up through the freak shows.
Really?
When he was a kid, when he was 15, he had to take care of Grace McDaniels. She was the mule-faced woman, and she was horrendous. I knew about her from books. Whoa. Jerry and I loved to read books and comic books. Right here, we'd buy the underground comic books at the Psychedelicatessen, which was run by our friend, Ron.
Thalen?
Ron Thalen.
Yeah, the Thalen brothers, of course. The Psychedelic Shop, is that what you're talking about?
Psychedelic Shop.
Yeah, okay.
And
which was literally.
There was also the Psychedelicatessen, which I thought was so funny.
Yeah,
all these
Psychedelicatessen.
Names, everybody was so creative, you know, and so colorful. And everywhere you walked.
Psychedelic salami.
If you met a girl on the street here and you went to her house that night, see, in those days, T-shirts were white or black. You know, you had, and polo shirts were striped. There wasn't all these amazing shirts. Yeah. So I remember going to sleep up here, and this girl took all my clothes and tie-dyed them. But she tried to tie-dye them red, and they came out pink, everything. And so I wore them for a while, you know, because everything was accepted. Pink. Exactly. Yeah. And we would go over, if we didn't have to work, which was rehearsal or something like that, we would go to Golden Gate Park and take acid. And everybody did that every day. And it was like, you couldn't believe there's caves in there. And there's the portals of history, which are actually the Spreckles Mansion, which was up on Buena Vista.
Yeah, I know the Spreckles. Yeah.
And there was a guy there, Gavin Arthur, right? Mm-hmm. And he was the grandson of Chester Alan Arthur, President of the United States. Wow. After Garfield. And I can't remember the exact year, but he was a real buffoon and a character. But his great-grandson was the first gay person I ever talked to that admitted it, that he was gay, you know. And his doors were open all the time. So if you went up to Buena Vista, there were swings up there. We'd go up there and smoke pot or be high. And then his door was always open, and there was a party. So you see the picture of Jerry. When you walk in the door, there's an office now. Because the guy who owns it, Joby Pritzker, lets me do my radio show from there. And
wait a second.
Huh?
Shout out to Joby Pritzker.
He's a great guy.
Love.
And he is all about being up there in that place. I'll take you up there sometime.
I'd love to go.
It is built as a complete monument to the Grateful Dead and to smoking weed. Oh. And there's a famous picture that I think Herb Green took it, of Jerry with a top hat and this paisley
that weird
purple shirt. This hangs right over. It was taken right in that room there, you see. So that was a place we hung out a lot too. And it was beautiful. So great to meet all these people with different mindsets.
That's the soul of San Francisco, because Joby is like third generation Pritzker, correct?
You bet.
Yeah.
And so, but the
just
thing
to point
is,
that out, it's important.
I asked Jerry, I said, this is so great, man. And he said to me, well, you got to understand something. And I was sitting there with him and Paul Kantner, and we were over at Alembic, you know, talking about guitars and that kind of
Jefferson Airplane. Amazing.
Yes, and he loved to smoke weed with us. And this new weed had just come in, Ice Bag it was called.
Whoa.
Strongest weed ever.
Ice Bag?
It was how it was smuggled in.
Okay.
And so we were smoking it, and then Jerry started explaining it, both those guys started explaining.
Product placement, sorry.
That San Francisco was the place that everybody in the world sent their misfit children, whoever, when they grew up. And so that's how Gavin ended up here. And that's how Kantner was telling me about his family. And his dad was 71 years old when he was born. Oh. So we always thought about stuff like that, see? And we knew everything about each other because the Big Brother people, they hung out with us. Janice, if she decided you're going with her, she had a house right on the corner here in Buena Vista and upstairs. And she would grab you and make you come up, not make you, but say you're coming to party.
Yeah. The one on Lion Street, that one down there.
That's another one she had over there, and that was like orgy. That was for the orgies. This one was for
And then she
people
was on
think
that.
she could go to sleep
Yeah,
sometime.
yeah.
She had a big round bed
Oh.
up on Buena Vista here, and she lived there for a short while, and everybody was moving all the time.
Well, just to bring it to that, love you, Janice. Of course, she's in the air everywhere. The essence of the Wild West and how that allure of the Wild West, and like me, I'm honored that I'm from here. Like I was born here. And I said fuck the hippie shit and moved to New York for 10 years because I was so tired of the whatever.
You went the other way, see?
Totally the other way. But I came back because it is the essence.
Well, that's a good way to do it.
The final frontier. It's the final frontier. It's the Wild West. It's the pioneering spirit. It's the spirit that is not afraid of looking like an idiot, maybe, or maybe going a little too far once in a while, right? But being kind to each other. So I just kind of wanted to say thank you for being here because that's kind of the essence of why I even do the magazine and the radio show is to kind of like bring the whole energy of what you lived through, and it's in your blood. Well, to today,
But to relate to that for you, because I have this show on the Grateful Dead channel on Sirius, right?
We love it.
And that has
Big
changed
Steve
me.
Parish hours.
It changed me because on the road, you see, when we started, and I'm telling you, when we went out there, it was the police, the stagehands union, the IA. They didn't like us. Every promoter except for Bill Graham was mob owned. Wow. I can tell you every one of them, man, because we had to deal with them. You went to New York, you were dealing with Howard Stein, whose father was Ruby Stein. He sat in a bar with $100,000 cash every day. He was the bank for the five families of New York. Then when you went to Boston, it was Raymond Patriarcha, and his guys were. You didn't run a show without these people. Jesus. And so we knew them all, and they liked us because we knew how to deal with them because of my dad, what my dad had taught me, see?
You spoke,
And the Teamsters thing helped us later, too, because when we were getting in Cleveland, we'd go to play there one time, and we're smoking weed, and we're bringing in all these cabinets.
It goes
we
without
were building
saying.
a wall of sound, and we get close to it. And they didn't. They said, you guys stop it. Stop right now. They were pissed. And they said, we don't touch your stuff. We're going to do it. No. We're from San Francisco. We do everything, man. And we got ideas you don't even understand. You couldn't set this stuff up. So we're face to face with these guys. But we got our way. And I told them, I said, we got to work together then. You want to be that way. Yeah. So then they pulled me behind the curtain. And, of course, they stuck a 32 up under my neck. And they said, you're a good kid. We like you. But we'll blow your freaking head off, man, because this is our place. And so I called my dad up. And the next day, guess what? There was union cards for us. So we were the first crew to go in the union. Now, Jerry saw the brilliance of having a strong
that story.
crew. A real strong crew was why the airplanes, see, they didn't have that. They had Jack Cassidy's brothers, Chick and Paul. They were nice guys, wonderful guys. They weren't like us. See, Jackson, Ramrod, we were ready to fight if we had to. Yeah. And we were ready to do anything to get the Grateful Dead on the stage. Yeah. San Francisco, you didn't need to be like that because we had Hell's Angels everywhere. But the Hell's Angels,
already here.
After Altamont, they wouldn't leave us because we stuck with them. You see, I asked Jerry after Altamont, I said, what do we do now? He said, we were friends with them before. We're friends with them now. We got to stay that way. Everybody else abandoned them. Wouldn't talk to them. Blame them for the problem, but it was very complicated. I swear to you, Mick Jagger would have been killed by this guy had he not been stabbed. Yeah. It was an ugly, ugly thing to see at a show.
Can you give me a happy story of that?
Yes, of course.
That'd be great, because we all know the sad, dark one.
So the juxtaposition of it all was the radio show, and looking back on my whole life, I only can see the bright, beautiful spots.
I love that.
Because everything, every day with the Grateful Dead was like that. When Jerry played right out here on Haight Street at the Straight Theater, we just ran a cable out, to a flatbed. Yeah. And there's the whole street was full of people.
That Jim Marshall photo is
everything,
float that
exactly. In. And everything was so spontaneous. And so you learned. We were very young, so everybody was strong and different about it and ready to stand up together. Yeah. And, you go to Panhandle Park, you get fed if you were hungry.
Right, thank you.
And
Diggers.
The Diggers and Peter Coyote.
Yeah. Shout out, Peter. We love you.
Great guy. And Peter Coyote is a good example of the bright, shining things. he was right there with us all the time as this long-bearded, long-haired guy just like us, you know. And we were going on the road.
East Coast guy, by the way.
Well, yeah, because we went on the road and we were from everywhere.
Yeah.
He grew up with, what's his name, Ring Olivio. I can't remember his name right now, but he wrote a book. And he was a street guy, Emmett Grogan.
Oh, yeah. That was
And these were street guys. Yeah. And then we had Kesey bringing all these great poets around, like Ginsberg, I'm telling you. And Lenore Candell was this poet here. And she was married to Sweet William, a Hell's Angel. Yeah. And so he was always causing problems. He's the one that really started the whole thing at Altamont with Animal. That's another story. I'm not going to get dark anymore.
So no, we got to go. I mean, I'm glad we have to know.
All these were beautiful experiences too, because we made sure that when we did, see, in those days there was no, like at Winterland, there was no barriers between the audience. Right. So everybody got high together. In Golden Gate Park, there was no backstage. There was no security. We had to just take care of it ourselves. And
you already had the architecture, so you could be freeform within that space, right?
And so everybody would get high. Like you see them coming. They stripped their clothes off for freedom. And we were taking big doses of acid. Yeah. And so they would just come jumping on the stage. So we had to learn to grab them. And even a young lady, a small girl on acid, her adrenaline is strong and they're dangerous. All of our equipment was up there, guitars, delicate stuff, you know. And so we had to protect it. Yeah. And so this thing started where we realized that we were protected for the band to play. Yeah. But there was some dangerous people, but there was mostly love everywhere, you know. There was always nuts that would do crazy things. But
what's the name of the band that Bob Weir named you for? The Asswipes from Hell?
The Assbites from Hell.
Assbites from Hell.
Because we used to play, when we set the gear up, we'd play till the guys came in. Yeah. And the Assbites became a great thing. The audience loved it, you know, and so...
but the Assbites being kind of that toughness in you guys?
Exactly. The Assbites from Hell was not a term of endearment, actually. Well, but now it is.
We love you, Bobby.
Now it is. And Bobby always supported it. Bobby was the greatest because... he let us live, when we moved out of the city, we lived at Rucker Ranch, okay? And that was Bobby's place. And Jackson lived there, I did, Sonny Hurd. And the crew was really solidifying, you see? And Jerry understood this. Better brain, not that we were stupid, but we didn't see the big picture that he did from the stage. Yeah. But we got it as soon as he explained it. And it took years and years to understand why he so stood up for us and made the crew become this thing that no other band had. It had to be like that. We lived together. Every day we were together. You know, when we started traveling on the road, there's so much stuff. We could do 3 or 4 of these shows.
Oh my God, no, I know.
Because there's a lot of background that people don't have any idea how the dynamics of the bands worked. Yeah. But they weren't going out on the road like we were. We ventured out there. Right. And to do that, it was a different time. It was like Easy Rider. Okay?
Well, it's like coming outside of the bubble.
Exactly.
Because I always say we're inside, not only at where I live, right here in this corner. We're inside the bubble, inside of the bubble, inside of the bubble. That's California, San Francisco, and Haight-Ashbury.
And we wanted to be back here in Haight and back here in California and back in Northern Cal. Yeah. Because even LA was like, what the hell's going on down here? You know?
That's another state.
And so we learned every city in America. Yeah. But we come home to San Francisco, what a great thing.
Can I share something with you when you were talking about Jerry and how he saw the thing and you guys were you were very busy with this, so he saw that. When I first moved to New York, I wrote one line and I called it the land of the vertical sky. Because to me, everything in New York, East Coast is very, whereas I grew up with like this, land, like horizontal for sure.
Space and light.
Totally. But I needed that thing over there so I just wanted to kind of bring that up, that Jerry had that foresight.
It was this thing of, because we spent so much time in New York too with the Grateful Dead. Because we beloved in every city we went to. And as we built that up, everybody wanted a piece of the Haight-Ashbury. And that's what we carried. See, record companies weren't playing our records on the radio because they were too long. Everybody else, like the Airplane, would clean up and go on Ed Sullivan. The first time the Grateful Dead went on a TV show.
Playboy Mansion?
Playboy After Dark.
Check that out.
And Owsley filled the fucking...
I'll send the link.
Yeah, it's a beautiful thing. But Owsley filled the coffee thing with acid, and the whole place got lit up, and it was a great night. It was one of the greatest shows and everything. And
well, the difference between New York and the vibe out there, like the New York shows were always amazing, and the California shows were, but Barlow said, just to bring John Perry Barlow, rest in peace, we love you, said the difference between New York and San Francisco, if I had to choose one over the other, I'd choose New York, because I'd much rather have somebody say "fuck you" and me have a nice day than the other way around.
He played that game. He was a devil's advocate in that way, you know. Because he loved it, the vibes here too, and he'd go on the road with us sometimes. And you know, where he grew up in Wyoming, you don't see people. There were no
middle
people.
of nowhere.
Where he was attracted to New York like everybody was, because there was something between in the first years of the Grateful Dead. There was something between Texas, California, and New York. It started from this group called the Pleasure Crew. And they all moved here.
What year are you talking about?
I'm talking about 1969.
Okay.
The Pleasure Crew was formed from these rich Texans, people that had the biggest oil wells, oil fields in Texas. Wow. And they had apartments in New York, right? Yeah. And they had houses anywhere they wanted. They started buying houses out here. Yeah. And as we moved out into Marin, they bought farms and ranches, and we partied with them. And Loose Bruce was a guy. He was a jet setter, and all of their friends were very wealthy. Okay, and here we were, street kids, but they wanted to hang out with us, and they wanted to know everything we did. We became what they cared about. So they called themselves the Pleasure Crew, and they went everywhere we went. Right?
Wow!
But they added to the party in a way that was incredible. And in New York, they would take us to party after the Fillmore shows. We'd go. These incredible apartments where you needed a golf cart. A private elevator brought you up, and there were golf carts waiting to take you to the other end of the apartment. Nitrous oxide tanks, 6 of them in a row, with butlers with white gloves. When they froze up, they would change them. Didn't change us, so we still were partying like crazy. And
wow.
And so they...
I mean, and you're how old at that point? You're like 22, 20?
I was 18, 19.
You're still 18. You're still 18.
I was 19.
Okay.
Going on the road. And so when you went to the hotels 19. In those days, they just threw our keys down on the table. We didn't have any money to stay in fancy hotels, you know. Yeah. But the Holiday Inns, they didn't like us, and they'd throw them down, and you'd grab a key, and then you ended up with everybody. So you got to know everybody in the band. You knew, like, if you were with Phil Lash, you weren't going to turn.
You're saying you just took over the hotel, kind of. Is that what you're saying?
No. Saying that we were told right away, hey, you better mind your cues or we're getting arrested.
Right. Okay.
You know, but we smoked pot wherever we were. That didn't stop us. It was so early on in that people didn't even realize that it was marijuana. Nobody cared what you smoked, because everybody smoked cigarettes everywhere. Right. And so you could get away with smoking pot. If you lit up a cigarette, they didn't smell it as much. And what are they smoking in there? They'd laugh about it. But as the years went on, they got very much in busting us all the time. We got arrested everywhere. So we had to be tough enough to take that, go to jail. San Francisco even. You know, we got stopped here at times.
Yeah, thank you, Brian Rohan and Stepanian, for getting them out of that one.
Always.
I think it was Stepanian.
Stepanian was great.
We love you, Michael. We love you, Brian.
And we had our dentist was...
sorry to kind of weave around.
No, that's fine. That's great. Stepanian was great, and Rohan, those guys saved us, you know, from trouble. Because even one joint was 8 years in San Quentin. One joint. And we had pounds with us. But we were so much into getting away with things and learning, hey, what are you worried about? We're not going to do anything.
Right.
You know, like, for instance, at that time, of course, Vietnam was raging. Yeah. And so everybody had to be in the Army and had to have that in their lives, you know. Jerry was in the Army. He was stationed up on Mount Tam at a missile site, man.
Jerry was in the Army.
I would go up there with him and I'd say, Jerry, show me where the phone was. I knew the phone was there, you know. And then he would say it was right over there, you know. And I said, what were we going to do if they called you? We were going to hit the button? But, you know, the thing is that you had to do that. And so it was part of it. So the FBI was after us. Yeah. We get stopped by the FBI. A car would pull you over, hang a blue light, and then we were FBI checking us out.
The juxtaposition of the energy seems like it was super hyper on the one side and super hyper. It reminds me of that line in Dr. Strangelove when Peter Sellers says, gentlemen, we can't argue in here. This is the war room.
The war room, exactly. It was like Dr. Strangelove all the time. exactly.
You know what I mean?
Like the
and
Hells Angels.
You guys are laughing. You know, you clown. There's wavy gravy about. You know,
they would
goofing
stop
around.
right here on the street, the Hells Angels, at a
Right
red
here.
light, and if
Right
they
here.
saw straight people watching them,
Yeah.
they'd get off their bike. One of them would get off, go over to the other guy, and tongue kiss him. I would blow your mind, man, to see that. Because they didn't care. You see, they taught another thing of, fuck you, I'm who I am. You don't like it?
Yeah.
But they didn't follow any of the rules.
Yeah.
And they didn't like the protests.
Yeah.
You know, so there was fights in that time.
Yeah.
But you tried to keep love all the time.
Yeah.
It was the drugs that changed. When it was LSD and weed, everybody was happy and smiling all the time. As the Haight-Ashbury filled up from the country, it was you couldn't walk on these streets.
What did that
It was
feel like? I
wall
want to
to
hear
wall.
like from you. What did that feel like?
Well, you met every day you wanted to. You met somebody, you know, that you could be close to, a new guy friend or girlfriend or whatever. And so they had something, you had something, and we smoked weed. Everybody was common element in that. But then as the bad drugs came in, things did get a darker tone, of course. You know?
Meth.
And there was this guy that everybody hung out with, and his name was Superfly. And then he got killed. Somebody killed him.
This man has the memory.
And
of-
that changed the whole fucking tenor of the hate then. Everybody wanted to start saying, wait, this place is getting too dangerous now, man. You know, everybody was shooting speed. And speed, when you shoot that, life goes
on the
into
street, they
another
were shooting
thing.
it.
Well, in
You
those
know what I
days,
mean.
it was, you know, mostly in apartments all
Still,
around here.
yeah.
And it caught on everywhere, right? And
It makes
was-
me like all tight just hearing about
it
it.
did me too, and I didn't like that. See, because on the road when we had to drive all night, we would take pills, you know, and we took snort some speed, everything, but we kept me from going into the darker drugs when I saw, because I had already been through all that as a kid, and so when I saw it hit these innocent bands, all the bands were so innocent.
Yeah.
I couldn't believe it.
Yeah.
Jerry, like he was never exposed to that, but he was a street kid in San Francisco. He knew how to live on the streets and all that stuff.
Yeah.
But the drugs were nastier.
Yeah.
Now all of a sudden, and that changed things.
So
But-
New York was like a couple of steps more evolved as far as the
Well,
evolution.
yeah,
right. As far
but
as
they
the-
still were pretty
the
hip.
edge
you
was
know,
a little farther out.
They had the folk scene.
Yeah.
And here you had
Yeah.
North Beach, and Jerry and Hunter were beatniks before they were hippies.
Yeah, absolutely.
The hippie thing came out from a famous guy in the Chronicle,
Not Herb Cain.
Herb Cain.
Yeah. We know.
He's the one that
yeah.
named it all
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
You know?
That's what they say. There's different
He
stories.
said it, but other
Yeah.
people said it too. You know,
Hipsters,
hippie. It
hippies.
was a way of looking at people different than beatniks now,
Right.
And a lot more open
Right.
in getting high. When you started growing your hair really long, you stood out, and you had to fight.
Yeah.
The other guy, the rednecks, wanted to fight. So
Yeah.
if you weren't a tough hippie,
Yeah.
I can't explain this. You couldn't have worked for the Grateful Dead.
Speaking of tough hippies, it's a great segue because I'm trying to steer you towards one really question that I really want to hear and maybe a story about is, I know you knew Pigpen. Do you have a
very
good
well.
Pigpen in the Haight story in
Sure,
the
of
vicinity?
course.
Okay, great. Yay.
Because, you know, the thing was, it was a place that we played that was my favorite, and that was the Great Highway
okay, yeah.
down by Playland. It was still there. And it was across from Sutro Bass, which was incredible. Sutro Bass burned down in '68. But Jerry would fill my head with stories about Sutro Bass. He hung out there a lot as a kid.
Wow.
And it was so magical to me, right? So when you played at the Family Dog, it was right on the Great Highway, right on the sand.
Wow.
And when you loaded in, you couldn't, we had to lift the cases over the sand. You couldn't roll it through. And then there was fireplaces. And it was another place that Bill Graham was running at the time. Chet had started it, but he moved on. And then the shows there. So Pigpen, we all had old jalopy cars. We couldn't afford good cars. So all over San Francisco, there was car lots on every street corner. For $100, you could get a car, you know. So this guy that worked for
That's a
Grateful
great
Dead
visual.
went in and hustled Ford on Market Street.
Yeah.
They were making these things called Cortinas. And he got 10 Cortinas for the Grateful Dead. So Pigpen
That's a good
had the
story.
last one. You know how when you get things for free, sometimes they don't last very long.
Oh,
Everybody
yeah.
smashed them. They all were stolen, busted into.
Weird mojo. Yeah.
Pigpen still had his, right?
Yeah.
But he got T-boned wanting to go to the show, and he saw me right here on the street, and so I had an old '53 Buick, And so he jumped in with me, and we drove down to the Great Highway. And there, him and Janice that night, they were amazing together. And they drank. They were the only ones that drank alcohol. Everybody else was pretty much, I don't like it. You know, Jerry hated it because he was raised in a bar.
Yeah.
And he saw too many drunks in his life.
Yeah.
So he didn't like it at all.
Yeah.
Other people did drink a little bit of beer and that kind of stuff. But Pig and Janice, they drank Southern Comfort. And Pig drank Rainier Ale, which everybody hated. You know, we just couldn't stand the taste of it. So they got pretty loaded, and they would do a thing together. And I'll never forget there and at the Fillmore and at Winterland. It's, when they would sing together, it was magic. They were the blues incarnate, both of them. Things that, as a young man, I was not exposed to because it was race music, they called it, different things. But here, that didn't matter. Everything went.
Like black girl, that kind of stuff?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So now, I'll tell you a story about Pig and the Haight.
There we go.
Okay.
Thank you.
Because
Thank you for being here.
Bill Graham lost the old Fillmore on Geary, right?
Okay.
And
so this what you give me the year. Yeah, that helps.
see, this is late 68, early 69.
Okay.
And
And what are you wearing? I'm kidding.
I was with,
Go ahead.
that's a very
made you
funny
laugh.
question.
I
I can
made you
answer
laugh.
that, but that would take another hour. So,
Well, you know.
what do you
We're
call
all
it?
right. We're all right.
This
We got all
place
day.
on the corner of Market and Van Ness was found by
Sure, yeah.
Bill Thompson found it. And it was the Carousel Ballroom was called. And the Grateful Dead and the Airplane were going to be their own promoters, right? It was on the edge of the Haight
Yeah.
down there, so
Yeah.
people could come in there real easy.
Right.
And the shows we had there were incredible. But this one particular night, this is a good example of how crazy things were, okay? There was a guy named Ken Connell, and he looked just like Goldfinger in the James Bond
You mean the bald
movie.
guy?
He wasn't bald. He had red hair.
Oh, yeah. That guy.
And he was the really big international smuggler.
Okay.
And he had the first guy, he would fly all over the world. He'd go to Afghanistan. And this is in 1967 and 68. And he'd come right here, come right to 710, and bring us whatever he brought in fresh. He always did that. He loved the Grateful Dead. And he turned out so many other young people as dope dealers all over for his people, you know. So
Woo!
anyway,
You heard it here first, folks.
he got a private plane and he was chased and he went all over the world evading Interpol in those days, with the international police. And so he landed at Noss Field in Nevada, a private field. And as he was getting out of the plane, because he'd switched a couple of planes to lose them, and he walked into the prop and it cut his hand off completely, his left hand, right surgically, right here at the wrist, and he got scalped straight back. You could see the bone. So where does he come? He comes to the Carousel Ballroom, and we're playing there that night. Janice is opening, right? And Jerry was always there early. So Jerry and I were upstairs. There was a dressing room upstairs, right? And we were sitting in there, and there was nothing in those days. There was no catering, no food.
Oh, yeah.
If you got water, there was a water fountain or somebody had something. So there was a bottle of organic apple juice, right, sitting on Jerry's table, and I'm talking to him. And in comes Ken Connell, and he'd gone to Marin General. They couldn't do anything. His hand, they cauterized his hand, and then they wrapped his head. He was scalped right on this whole side, was gone to the bone. So they wrapped it up, and then he came into the dressing room. I said, he's still bleeding. I said, what happened? He tells us, and we couldn't believe it. So somehow he had a handful of orange Owsley acid, and he dropped it in that apple juice, right?
Oh, no.
And you could see it. You could see it in there, but everybody was so thirsty. I can't explain it.
It was the only thing in the
room.
room.
If you took a sip out of that bottle, you were really high. And so by the time Janice was going to go on, Snooky Flowers, who was her saxophone player, he just taken off all his clothes because Janice didn't like LSD, and neither did Pigpen. See, because everybody was trying to always dose them because there was this theory that LSD cured alcoholism. Neither of them were really alcoholics. They had other problems, but alcohol wasn't it. I swear to God. And so that's why Pig would let me do his organ, because he said, you promise you'll never put acid in my drink? Because everybody else was always, if anything they brought him, we were trying to dose his beer.
Yeah.
I never did. So anyway, everybody else was dosing everybody. And so that night, everybody got so fucked up. Snooki took his clothes off. And then it turned into this debacle where people couldn't play, you know, and everybody was taking their clothes off, as they always did with acid in the city here. You know, you'd see just people walking around naked. And, you know, if the cops saw, they'd hassle them and stuff.
Yeah.
And we tried to protect people at the shows from being too high. And so Bill Graham, God bless him, came up with the Haight-Ashbury Free Clinic. That was
Dr.
a blessing.
Dave. Shout out to Dr. Dave, who I
He
just
is
spoke
so great.
yesterday.
Those people had a room off of Winterland, and you'd go in there.
Love you,
and
Dr. Dave.
See, if you got picked up by the cops on the streets here too high or in Golden
Yeah.
Gate Park,
Yeah.
in the station there,
Yeah.
it was horrible.
Park Station.
Park Station. You know exactly what I'm talking about.
Yes,
And
I
that
do.
place, they'd grill you. Where'd you get your drugs? You know, all this shit.
Yeah.
And make it really scare people. And then they would give you Thorazine, you know, and shoot you up. And Thorazine, you're still high in your head, but you can't move your body.
Oh, man.
So that was what everybody wanted to avoid, right? So the Haight-Ashbury Free Clinic, not only if you got the clap, you could go in there and they'd give you free shots, man. It was amazing. People cared about each other so much, you know.
Yeah. And they still do.
That's what we got to get back to.
Thank you.
The people are what matters, man. No matter if there was nobody acting like a star here. You mingled with everybody on the street, the musicians and everybody who just came in from Missouri that day who didn't know where they were. It was just as important.
Yeah.
You understand?
Yeah.
You'd let them stay at your house. If you met a guy and he said, hey, man, I got nowhere to stay, he slept on your floor.
Yeah.
I can't tell you how many carpets like this I just sleep on, and then I'd roll myself up in them to keep warm or something. Because there was a feeling that everybody was friends here. And it was so beautiful.
It exists here, and a lot of the kids are still coming here. And
That's
I talked
right.
to Bob Weir about
the
it.
dream will never die.
Right.
Because love is what we're about.
So that's,
And
that's
I know
what
it sounds corny.
No.
But it took me, so after we built up on the road, all those years, you know, 30 years on the road, you end up with armor on you, big armor. Because you're protecting yourself from all this stuff that happens in your life.
Yeah.
But you still got a heart and soul. And what is that about? That's about the love. The love of music and being to work for music and to be around music and to take me. I ended up with Jerry every second because I was 18 and nobody else wanted to go with him every night to the nightclubs. And he wanted to play every night. Yeah. So we were standing in front of Alembic and he comes out and he said, would you bring my guitar? And I had a 51 Cadillac then. And
nice.
I said, I'll take you, Jerry. Ramrod wanted to go home to his girlfriend that night, and he was older than me. And everybody else said, you do it, Steve. And that became me and Jerry doing the Garcia band. That became a whole thing of where we spent time in every nightclub in California. And then when we went out in the country, when the Grateful Dead weren't on, we went right out with Jerry's band. So I was with him every day.
Did you work with Steve Brown? You know Steve Brown?
Well, Steve Brown, when we had a record company, he was around.
Yeah,
yes.
But didn't he go on the road with you guys for the JGB?
For a little bit, he tried to do stuff. Different people came in and out, and he did stuff trying to come out because everybody wanted to be on the road, but that wasn't the place for everybody. So he was out for a little bit, a good guy, but he didn't. You know, you had to have a certain road mentality.
To
oh,
I get it.
That.
No, Steve's a sweet pea. You know.
Yeah,
so,
and people, you know, you had to be tough to be out there.
Get you. I love you, Steve. Shout out to Steve Brown.
Yeah, tell him hi if you see him. He's good. He's a friend.
I will. I love
him. And
sorry to interrupt the story.
That's okay. No, that's good to bring up all these people.
No,
this
it's
is how
really
they
important.
live.
It's really important.
The reason I like to think about them is because that's how they live. They're all dead now, most of them.
Yeah.
All the guys on the crew that I'm talking about are dead, you know, and just kids alive, but he's had a few strokes. And you know, I go on the road with those guys with Dead and Company, but it's very different now.
Totally.
None of the party elements gone, and it's so more serious. Everybody's older, their families are different. Yeah. We were wild, you know, and we took it out there. We took the thing of Haight-Ashbury and we brought it out to the world. And that was a beautiful thing.
Can you tell me about the snack concert here? Because only because it was right over here again.
Of course, it was
Keysar, and it was
in
1976. So I wrote it down. 72, I think I wrote.
No, it was later than that. It was after. It was 73 or 4.
Tell the folks like what that was about. Like
Okay,
Marlon Brando was
It was
there.
actually later than that. It was in 1976. It had to be because Mickey played, and he was gone from the band.
March 23rd, 1975.
75.
Yeah.
Okay, so Bill Graham, we were talking at Winterland, and he was angry because San Francisco didn't have any money.
He was always kind of angry.
Snack. The snack was the after school programs of music and art and dancing.
Yeah.
So we did this amazing show we put together, and we were the center of it for the entertainment. And there was other bands on the bill too. I think Santana was there that day.
Neil Young was there.
Neil Young.
There's a picture. That Michael Zagaris, my buddy who lives with the photographer, took
Yeah,
that photo.
yeah, he was around.
Yeah.
Michael, I remember him.
Yeah,
and so we were doing this thing.
And Marlon Brando
hung out with me. He was right there too. Because he loved the idea of helping the school kids.
And it was the Native American, his wife.
And the Native American stuff was Sasheen Littlefeather was his friend, and she accepted his Academy Award for The Godfather.
Okay,
He
yeah.
didn't want it.
Yeah.
But he was a great guy. He was really nice to hang out with. And we attracted
Marlon
all
Brando
kinds of
and the
people.
Grateful Dead. That's just such a wonderful, just
Darling,
sit there
we
with
have
that
to do
for a
a whole
minute.
show about all the
Yeah.
celebrities that came to hang out with us. Because everybody wanted to hang out with the Grateful Dead. And Jerry, for instance, here's a funny Jerry story, I'll tell you.
Then we'll get back to the
we'll get back to
Keysar.
the
Keysar. The
Keysar.
snack.
Oh, wait a
and-
second.
yeah.
I'll do that first.
Okay.
So at Keysar was a beautiful
Only
day.
because it's here.
It was so big.
Yeah.
And we were sort of in a
Still
place
there.
where we were hiatusing a little bit because everybody was burning out on cocaine.
Mm-hmm.
And we were starting to get over that. We were done with the Wall of Sound,
75,
which took up so much of our time.
Yeah.
And Mickey had just come back. It was like Mickey's first gig back. And I still got a scar on my finger where I was closing up one of his cymbal stands, and it pinched my hand so bad that it was like still there. I can feel it.
Wow.
But anyway, it reminds me of that day.
Yeah.
And so
That's cool.
it was so beautiful to see the crowd in Keysar. We played there before, but it was to the rafters, and everybody knowing it was a good cause. And so many people, I think Joan Baez was hanging with us, and other people who cared about people,
Yeah.
And the vibration of that day lasted for years. We talked about that show because it was last of the pure things done here in the Haight.
Or in general, you
Golden
think?
Gate Park, we used to do free shows there all the time. When we just did the 60th anniversary, I first was going down there and go, oh, it's going to be a free show? No, I was blown away. You can't anymore.
Yeah, well, see, let's just stop there for a second, because I know a lot of people that were so upset it wasn't free, and I don't want to get into the politics. I understand you can't do
me
it.
too.
You can't, at least one of the days do it free, or give the money to the city or something like that. But and so there was a lot
It's
of
gotten so hard
There was a lot of
nowadays.
going on with this kids. Like they wanted to go, of course they wanted to go, and it should be like it used to be back in this. But you can't do that anymore. I just want people to understand it wasn't them just being money hungry, greedy,
No, it's the way the whole business is. It's changed.
I
It
think it's
changed
really
after
important.
Bill Graham died.
A person from inside the
and
family
Jerry-
lets folks know that that's the truth.
We held, Jerry and Bill and everybody, all of us, we held the prices down. When I started working for the Grateful Dead, it was $2 all night for a show.
If not
and then
free.
it went to 3 was a big deal, and to go to 4. So every step was a big deal because people were poor. That was the thing. This was the people. You were down with the folks.
Yeah.
Bobby was the only one that came from a little bit of money, but when he lived at 710, he lived in the basement, and anybody could walk by and jump through his window. and one day I go down there, and he's down there playing his guitar, and he was having a hard time. I said, "What's wrong?" And he said, "Oh," and there was a guy sitting there that I didn't know it, and he said, "Never let anybody play my guitar who just ate raisins." And the guy had eaten a bunch of raisins, and Bobby let him play his guitar, and he couldn't move his hand on the guitar neck.
Oh my God.
And the everybody else, and Bobby too, lived that way.
Yeah.
And so nobody had any money, and that was not important.
Yeah.
The sayings in those days were better to have weed than money. And a day with marijuana was better than
I think
than
that's probably
money.
true of a lot of the unhoused kids that I know out here. A lot of them they're choosing to be this way.
Right.
And a lot, and the ones you see out here, I just don't want to defend the ones.
Well, the good part
they take
about
care
that,
of the neighborhood.
There
They
wasn't
get rid
a big
of the,
homeless problem because you could go stay with anybody.
Right.
If you met somebody in 5 minutes before sundown
Right.
and said, "Hey, can I stay at your place?"
Right.
They let you.
Right.
There wasn't this fear of everybody, even if you were dangerous people. I'm kidding. I stayed with some people that thought they were going to kill me by the morning, because they would have these strange cults and they'd come out of the woodwork on you. We're all going to eat together now. And then you realize something. Wait a minute. Why is everybody serving this guy? See, everybody was going through
so you had to be very aware as well.
You had to be very aware.
Which is the New York thing, the East Coast sensibility.
Well, that was something that I
is.
realized.
Whatever, man.
That growing up in New York and having a New York education, you were a little bit ahead of some of that stuff.
Yeah, you had the tough.
But people here were tough too, and they were smart.
Yeah.
And they had a different way of looking at things.
Yeah.
It was like you say, the light and the space and the beauty of it. I love it. I've never left San Francisco.
And the light that goes down Haight Street, I'm telling you, there's something.
It's incredible. The city of light,
Yeah. Hey, did we finish the pig pen? Sorry, we're jumping around here, but
No, we're
he
jumping
got me
around.
a little stoned before we started. So I
Well,
have to say, this is the
Pigpen
first show
and
I've ever
Janice
done.
is
A
what
little
I was
stoned
talking
on
about.
his really good weed, which we'll promote in a little
And
bit.
then that night,
Go back.
at
Wait, the guy with the head thing, his head's hanging out. The Pigpen story. The guy that comes back.
Right. Well, that was
and then the acid.
that was
Did
at
we finish?
the
We finished
Carousel Ballroom, right?
And we're finished.
And so what happened there was
everybody got
everybody
high.
got so high,
Yeah.
and Pigpen did too.
Oops.
And so then everybody realized that the acid test, where the Grateful Dead had started, got their big claim to fame in the city here,
Right.
was time to move on now and get more serious, at that night. I felt that vibe. That we couldn't, in those days it was strobe tuners. They were very difficult to tune guitars.
Yeah.
And everything was technological now, but we never stopped taking drugs and we never stopped taking DMT and LSD and everything else because that's who we were. And we did things that nobody else ever did. You can't tell me we were lazy. We went out there across America and we set up giant PAs and we built them with our own two hands.
Giant is not the word.
We did it all because we were driven to make better sound for the people. It started with the Grateful Dead that way. And the other bands I was telling you earlier, they went on TV shows. Quicksilver fell apart because they had internal problems. All the other bands from the Haight were left behind in a sense. But we rep for everybody. The Charlatans messed up, but they hung out with us too. Still, they went on for years, coming to hang with us all the time.
George Hunter, I saw him a couple
George
months ago.
Hunter is a great guy.
I mean, George Walker. George Hunter.
No, George Hunter.
Yeah.
George
Walker's coming. He's from the Prankers.
He's
Pranksters.
He's a prankster.
Yeah, he's coming next week.
And he was a race car driver and a great friend. And he went to Egypt with us, and so did Keezy and all that.
I want to talk about Egypt, but we want to finish the Pigpen story.
I don't even know. I've lost track of time.
It's been a while, but we're okay on time. We're on time. We're okay. We're good. I'm just so used to but I want to keep it towards the Haight. But
you just asked me questions.
I didn't. No, keep going, man.
So anyway,
I want you to finish
each one
the
of those
Pigpen
memories was always centered around the Haight when we were in the city.
Yeah.
But then as we got into Marin and we started going out around the world and going everywhere else, things diffused in a sense, and we didn't get to be here that much anymore, but it was in our hearts always. Yeah. It's something you live with. Yeah. You never forget your time in the Haight, no matter who you are. It changes everybody. Yeah. And it was a good way it changed people.
How did it feel driving in today? Did you feel a vibe?
Everything comes alive again.
You got a park right across the street.
You get to places, you know where to go. You got an inside track. And if you have to go up a different block, you can walk to where you're going or whatever. Because we walked these streets and we hung out.
That's what I'm kind of trying to have it. Wow, you're walking the streets still.
And
60
you
years
can't
later.
lose that, But I come here every once in a while when there's somebody like yourself that's still involved with it to participate. Yeah. To go out and eat somewhere. It reminds me of that. So you never lose that feeling. I was just, something recently really brought it home to me. It was a podcast or something I did with somebody else. It was a rich guy and his podcast, and he wanted to know all about what it was like here. Yeah. He's out in Boston, but we did it on a Zoom thing, and we captured that lightning in a bottle kind of thing.
Yeah.
The Grateful Dead brought that everywhere. It was a combination of wherever we went, people took LSD, and that lit them up. And they wanted to feel that safe environment.
Yeah.
So our shows became a safe place for
Yeah.
people, no matter what, no matter who you ran into there. Because believe me, it was crazy. But we always took care of the people. We never, if somebody did come up on stage out of their mind, we didn't bust them or hurt them.
Right.
We really tried real hard to be gentle with them.
Right.
But sometimes it was dangerous. They would punch you, and they would be like a drowning person, you know.
Yeah. Well, I mean, in this book, Blair Jackson and Regan McMahon took me to my very first Dead show, and that's Jerry on Haight Street. But that was the first place I ever took acid in my life. Like, they were the perfect guides, is my point. And I felt so safe. And the music was the big part of it for me.
Right.
You know, it really was. I mean, I was 19. My mom had just died. It was a very safe... I mean, again,
So
I
many
had Blair
people,
Jackson and Regan. I mean,
have
who were
those
like
beautiful memories, you know.
Yeah.
They call my show and they tell me about their
how
first
healing,
time that
and they got
they
healed.
opened up.
They opened up.
It's the same thing when somebody came to Haight-Ashbury and they got that awakening. That's why people are going to come here forever to find the Grateful Dead.
I love that.
They come here and they look for the Grateful Dead around the corners. And so when you have a place like this, where we're at right now, a place, because the band was in all these houses and they hung out on the street right in front. And those things are in your youth and your strength and your wide open mind was open for anything. And times were just as crazy.
Well, it kind of
Crazy
reminds me
as
of
now.
The Wizard of Oz when at the end she's looking out the window and you were there and you were there and you were there. You know, the
And you were there
scarecrow, and you
too.
were there too. Yeah.
You were there.
Yeah, I was.
You see,
So,
because
know,
I've met a lot of people
You feel like-
who
yeah.
are too young to have been there.
Right.
But I swear to God, I believe their soul was here.
Oh, yeah.
And they might have passed away because
Yeah.
so many people overdose
Yeah.
and things happen. And
I was thinking on the other end, the kids that are out here that are 19, 18, and 20, whatever it is, they have that same
They've passed
energy.
through
They're like,
the
oh, I
energy.
wasn't part of the hippie thing, so I can't be a part. Yeah, you're in it already. Like, you are
well, because
it, right?
it's part of our zeitgeist. It's part of our DNA, you
Yeah.
know. And those things are passed on.
and it comes from
just
the
like
soul.
our ancestors who were in tough times to survive. Each and every one of us represents thousands of years of survival to be here. So there are a few times in history, and I always talk about Paris in the 20s, and there are other places too around the world where there were centers of enlightenment, you know, and people come together in those places. And this was like that. For instance, there's so much I could tell you about little incidences every day.
We're going to see the Counterculture Museum right over here. Plug for the Counterculture Museum after we get out of here. So
Yeah,
it talks about
definitely.
the Bohemians and all of that. So
Right.
go ahead. Yeah.
Right. This was always a bohemian
Yeah.
neighborhood too.
Yeah.
It was an artist place,
And
but it was also a straight. There were straight
gay,
people that
black,
lived here,
right? The whole thing, right?
and the gays and their whole scene in San Francisco. They were just so. The city was like
Coquettes.
that. It was so
Remember the
beautiful.
Coquettes?
The Coquettes.
Yeah.
They were all hanging out, and everybody was accepted. Everybody. Hell's Angels and gays, they got along really good.
Yeah.
They never beat each other up. You know, and the queens were all over and dressing the way they were.
And things got ugly with Harvey Milk, and that's when it all went
That's
dark
right.
again.
Everything started
And
getting nasty.
dark.
When
Yeah,
the
AIDS,
straight vibe
you know.
crawls its way back in, and people get scared.
Yeah.
Now, it used to all be on Polk Street. We used to go over there from here on Halloween because that was the only time you technically could wear masks on the street. Other than that, there's laws, you know, that say you're going to rob a bank or something, right? So it was a gay night in San Francisco, and it was all at Polk Street. Then when it moved to Castro, it was perfect. But in all these neighborhoods, there were straight people too. And when they saw the hippies, they moved out. They couldn't handle it.
Yeah.
So that's how that flushed out. But there were still probably people here who saw the whole thing come and go in a sense. But it's never gone. It's still pretty much here.
Yeah.
But you don't have wall-to-wall people, you know.
Right.
But everybody makes their pilgrimage here.
I lived in that corner, 612 Ashbury, in 1981. And it's like here I am, full circle, New York, and then back to this. It's like a home, like you said.
that's
It's
right.
an awakening, an enlightenment. There's an
Because even if you don't have a phone or you don't have your computer, you've got your brain, and your brain absorbs where you are. Someone like you is paying attention to everything. There's certain people, if you put them in a room, they'll tell you everything they saw in that room perfectly. And other people, they're like, oh, there was a chair, and I think there was a guitar. That's all they'll see.
I mean, I had the great pleasure of getting to hang with Jerry for a week in New York when he was there. God, the tail end of my New York days, 92, and I just had a horrible breakup. And my girlfriend was Jerry's pot girl or something. You probably know her.
More than that.
I won't
probably,
mention her name,
yeah.
it's because, whatever.
New York was a lot of drugs.
But anyways, but it was great. I was 92, and Jerry. It was my point being is it was as
Jerry had that spirit.
We knew each other.
Always.
We'd known each other forever. It was the minute we met, though. It was
That's
like
right.
it was like we'd known each other 25
And
years.
that's the way Jerry was.
Why though?
you
Because
know?
I wasn't a Grateful Dead. I'm like, whatever, the Grateful Dead.
You were hardcore, girl.
No, I just didn't. I grew up with it, so it was kind of like, yeah. She dragged me to the show, basically,
Right,
and it ended up getting me back home because Jerry, at the end of the 5 days, said, time for you to get back home, and literally. So my point is that openness that Jerry embodied or is. I mean, he's still in the air.
Well, his spirit was
That's
like
the thing.
that. It carried it on, and he was the center of the whole thing, and he became the emblem of it. And so the Grateful Dead became the iconic band that represented that. And we took that all over the world, and people came in every city in Paris and France, and all over Europe. People came there to look for that vibration because it affected the world from right here on these streets. And that's in Paris in the 1920s. There was great sadness because of World War I, and they all came there to heal themselves. So whenever there is time to be healed, you come together in these beautiful places, and we reopened to all this stuff. So, for instance, at 710, there was a big room upstairs, and it had this book, the Egyptian Book of the Dead.
Yeah, I have that in my bookshelf.
And so, if you read the first few pages, it said, "The sled of the dead, the undead, will be pulled by the Grateful Dead in the next life." What? How did somebody write that? Okay, but it was that. Now, when we went to Egypt, it was a whole other thing. If I told you all about
that'll be part 2 with Steve.
It was amazing. But after we got back for a few years, the internet was just starting in the 80s, and somebody called me up, Alan Trist, who was the guy that worked with us, and he said, "Look at this." He sent me a thing on fax, and it was about the rest of the book of the Egyptian Book of the Dead. The middle of it's all about mummifying animals and people, and nobody reads that. Nobody ever got to the last chapter. And you know what the last chapter said?
No, I never got there.
It said 25 years before the dawning of the age of Aquarius, the Grateful Dead will make a great noise at the pyramids. How could that be? We were there right at that time. September 15th, 14th, 15th, 16th. We stayed there for weeks before. But we were at the Great Pyramid at that very day, a full eclipse of the moon.
Jesus Christ.
And 25 years before the dawning of the age of Aquarius. And we blew it out with the biggest PA they ever saw. And there's never been another band there. How did that happen?
But
It's
you didn't know
part
that
of
until
destiny.
Yeah,
we didn't know it when we went there. We went there because of a bunch of different things.
Quantum physics, synchronicity, all of that stuff. I'm way into that stuff. Like it was.
It's meant to be. Just like each person that came to the Grateful Dead was meant to be there. Some
Like
of
you
us
helping
came,
the guy with the amp down.
exactly,
Yeah.
and some of us came from across country to get here. Others came from right here. Yeah. Others came from L.A.
Yeah. I boomeranged.
Everybody boomeranged too. Guys like Barlow, Wyoming, were going back all the time. Everybody goes back, but once you get to a certain point, I could never go back home. It was gone.
Yeah.
And then this is your home.
I think that may be the good place to. Let me ask you this. I ask everybody because this is Haight Street, because this is hyper local with a global perspective. I'm going to ask this in 2 parts. What would you like to say to the Haight community and communities all over the world? But also, because you knew Jerry so well, what do you think Jerry would like to say to everybody out there? Man, because I'm going to start crying.
He'd swell with a little bit of pride about it because he realizes that a beautiful thing was started from art. And he was an artist, and art is what we can never forget. When you see a government that's not supporting arts, that's the worst kind. And when you see anybody who doesn't, respect a person who's drawing on the sidewalk, walk around it, because people know when you're being an artist, you're showing your tender side. And that's what he taught me. And as hard as we could be to get done what we had to do, we always had to stay caring inside And that's the way you got to be to walk these streets too. Now it's just as hard as ever. You have to make it so that you contribute to the goodness of everybody and helping them. And I had to learn that through my radio show, everybody calling. There's no way you can be mean to people when they're pouring their hearts out to you. I love it. And reaching out helps you to be a better person.
Yeah, absolutely. That's the whole thing.
It's so easy to walk away or something, you know. And Jerry would be like this. We were on the road. I'll tell you this.
Yeah.
He had a thing because he grew up in a bar next to the Sailors Maritime Hall. And he saw
Markets. Wait, down like where? What street?
Right next to the Maritime Hall.
Okay. Okay. Anyway, it doesn't matter. I'll look it
I
up.
forget the street now, but
I'll look it up.
they had a bar right next door. It was a sailors bar, and they were really tough sailors. They were guys from World War II. Jerry was born in 1942, and he was growing up there. And so every morning he had to go there and try to make his breakfast and not be yelled at by these guys. And they wanted their drinks at 6 a.m. They needed their alcohol. The bar opened at 6 a.m. And he told me about how he saw their suffering. So wherever we went on the road, if we'd be waiting on the streets going to a hotel and he saw a guy struggling, he would give him some money or he'd give him cigarettes if the guy asked for it. And the guy would usually be a complete, letdown. He'd stand there peeing his pants or something. But Jerry understood that people were people and they had faults,
Yeah,
And
exactly.
he didn't believe in himself. One time at Winterland, Bill Graham came up there where Jerry and I hung out on stage because he couldn't hardly walk around by this time. People revered him like a god.
Yeah.
So Bill brings up this lady, and she had a floppy hat on. She had a trench coat. She was all covered up. And he said to me, Bill whispered in her ear, he said, she wants to meet Jerry. She loves him. And then I looked at her. It was Jane Fonda. And so I said, okay. So it was just me and Jerry up there. We had these chairs in this little place where we tuned the guitars. And she sits down, and you could see she was in love with him. And a few minutes later, they were holding hands, and she was smoking weed with us. And then Jerry went on, and she said to me, how can I get to him? How can I he seems timid or afraid. I said, he is,
Wow.
And so I tried to talk to him. And I said, Jer, don't. He said, I know, I love her. She's beautiful. She's amazing. But he didn't believe that he was good enough for her. She was between husbands. Tom Hayden was this activist guy. They'd been split up for about a year, and she hadn't met Ted Turner.
Okay.
She wanted to be with Jerry forever, I swear. And so she came around a few times and tried, and we did shows for her. In Oakland, we did a show for environmental cancer for her. And she just would come to me and talk to me frustrated because she couldn't get anywhere with him because it wasn't the shiny object that grabbed Jerry's attention. It was the soul of the object. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I know exactly what you mean.
And I was the luckiest person in the world because
You
that
were.
day that we stood there on June 9th and he came out and said, would somebody take my guitar and amp to the Matrix? I said, yeah, I'll do it. And he went with me and we never parted. Because that day when we were talking, he realized he was playing his guitar and trying to stump me with songs. And he started saying, come on, say a song and see if I can play it. So I said, Stardust. And he went, that's my mother's favorite song. I said, my uncle, Mitchell Parish, wrote Stardust. And he wrote 500 other famous songs. And Jerry couldn't
How's
believe
that
it.
one go again? Wait, I should know it off the top of my head. How does Stardust go?
Sometimes I wonder why I spend a lonely night dreaming of a song that haunts my reverie. And I am once again with you. And love is new, and each kiss an inspiration too. But that was long ago, and captured in the stardust of song. And then that's the intro, and then it goes into exactly.
Yeah.
And so it was the most
I'll clue
recorded
that in.
song, and he also wrote Deep Purple, and he wrote all these other great songs. So him and Jerry got to meet.
Yeah.
He lived to be in his deep 90s, and he lived at the Dakota in New York. And Jerry and him were going to write a song when Mitch died. He was 90 plus, 95. And then Jerry died a couple of years after. But that was the fruition. And when I'm going to write my next book is going to be called Stardust to Dark Star.
Oh.
Because it encompasses that whole trip, you see. And that moment when that song was Jerry's mother's favorite, she was a lovely lady. And I got to know her too. And we used to hang out every day because we either were rehearsing or whatever. So when I was driving Jerry to Winterland one day, we stopped right here on Divisadero. There was a hospital still there. His mother had been in a terrible car accident. And he went up there to see her. And when he came down, he was visibly shaken, right? And I waited for him on the street there. He got in my car, and I said, Jerry, you okay? And he told me the whole thing about how horribly hurt she was. And she was suffering. And she died later that afternoon.
Oh, my God.
And he still went to Winterland and played and never said a word to anybody. I knew, and he knew. But he didn't go around, people, the word spread, but he played so beautifully. And he it was his thing, his love of San Francisco and his love of growing up here and his dad being a musician here and all the pain in his life. His brother cutting off his finger with fucking around his kids. Everything.
Dad drowning.
His dad drowning in front of him. These were things that were really traumatic. But he would talk to him about it. There was a reason why we spent all that time together. Because I know things about him that nobody does, because even his own kids or my own kids know about me because we opened up and we met each other's families and we knew because we went everywhere together. So it's an amazing story. I'll come back and tell you more about it.
Yeah. I think the essence, and we'll roll it out here, is Jerry Christmas. It is the holidays. And so these good tidings that we're speaking of, and that
He loved Christmas.
I went, the Grinch that stole Christmas at the end, when his heart's getting bigger. I picture the heart. I'm crying now. Okay, but in a good way.
That means it's good.
Yeah,
that means
it's
things
good.
are good.
But the heart is open.
Crying for happy.
But we love you, Jerry. Everybody have a great Jerry Christmas. Happy holidays. Steve Parish, we're going to have to do this again.
We'll have to do this again.
We have to do this again.
Definitely.
Let's see. Do I have anything that I forgot? I think that is it. I just want to make sure that I covered everything that we carried. What didn't we? Well, we didn't cover a lot. Did you want to do a plug for the no?
The weed?
Yeah.
I'm rebuilding my whole brand.
Okay.
And it's going to be under the Big Island Grown. Okay. Big Steve Big. It's going to be Big Steve.
Big Steve.
That's going to be in California, Hawaii, on all 4 islands. And I'm bringing it to Ohio. And that way the East Coast people can make the trip.
There you go.
Get some.
Meet them in the middle.
Exactly. Yeah. And we're making it a really beautiful, high-quality strain. And we're going to have Hawaiian and California style weed, like the way we learned from the seeds that we grew from this place right here. We kept all the
Thai
seeds.
stick?
Thai stick, everything. We kept seeds.
Wowie.
To keep the strains alive is very difficult, man, because Thai weed is very much a sativa plant. And we grow better indica here because we're on the 38th parallel. And that is same as Afghanistan, where the real strong weed comes from the Bengal provinces of India. And that's why.
When is this Ohio trip? I'm keeping you on point. When is this Ohio trip?
It's all going to start in January of next year. I'm going to bring it to Hawaii everywhere. We're going to get it going here. And I'm going to have a phone number you guys can call to have it delivered to you in California.
I might have to come on the road with him. I don't know. We're talking about that.
Yeah, I need help to do all this stuff because we have to do shows.
I need to be your roadie, Steve.
We have to do shows.
Can I be
and
your
we have
roadie?
to go out and get the word out and do appearances. And plus, I like going out and making people laugh.
Oh, yeah.
I have such a good time doing that and going into nightclubs still. And I know them so well. And when you get the whole audience laughing in a place, it's great. And the radio show brings them in. They want to come see.
Yeah, my dear friend listens to your show and said, my God, Steve Parish is such a kind human being. What a lovely soul.
Yeah, sure.
He did. He said.
No, I know. That's true because you have to be that way.
That open heart thing we're talking about.
And it breaks down all those other things, You still have to be protective of yourself, but you also can open up to the world.
Yeah.
Take a chance.
It takes guts to have fun, as my girlfriend likes to say.
That's right. What's her phone number?
Cynthia Parish. You know Cynthia. Steve Brown's ex.
So up
yes,
here,
sir. Yes, sir.
When the 60s was happening,
We can
I
keep
did
going,
a thing on Cole Street up here at, what's the name of that bar? It's right up on Cole Street.
Oh, well, yeah, no, I was there for your trivia
Yeah,
night.
you
The
know
thing,
what I mean.
it's in my
I want
notes.
to do some more things. We could do something there.
That was so
and
fun.
You could help me do it.
Absolutely.
And we'll do that for a test right there. Just seeing.
Oh, with the
and-
weed
and
thing.
They want. Well, we can not only that. No, just
test is-
comedy and tell stories about Jerry, just like this.
Okay,
But do it
yeah.
live for people in the Haight.
And I'll do
And
the
the guy
the
there is a
Steve
great
Allen
guy.
little bits, like
Yeah.
whatever
Exactly.
it is. Yeah.
We always quoted Steve Allen
Yeah.
because he was a hipster. He was a total hipster.
Oh, you kidding me? Playing for Kerouac?
And he wrote that song. You're walking along the street. You're dining at Sardi's. We played it.
Oh yeah. I wish I knew how to play more. I do know this. Who's this? Okay, how about
on Broadway. We went to Sardi's and we thought about him a lot. Actually, we talked about him. He was a funny guy, and he was a pot smoker.
name this? Steve Allen was a pot smoker. Here we go.
Talk to you guys later. Thank you. All right.
All right, that was it. We need to get some food. Was that all right?
Yeah, real quick. No, I want to get some.
Oh, now you need to go because we went too long.
Well.